definitely things that you could talk about for hours after reading this book. Hey, I'm Vivian, and today we're talking about Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Published in 2022, it's 394 pages and just shy of 12 hours on audiobook. Elizabeth Zott is a chemist in the early 1960s. At the beginning of the book, she's working in a lab where she's like the only woman who's not a secretary at the lab, other than the HR lady who hates her. Everyone at work, everyone looks down on Elizabeth only because she's a woman, a brilliant woman, and a brilliant chemist. And they're all of the opinion that women are inferior to men in basically every way that doesn't involve staying home and taking care of the children. But there's one man at work who doesn't think that. His name is Calvin Evans, and he is like a multiple Nobel Prize nominated scientist, and everyone at the lab is like half afraid of him, half in awe of him, and like half jealous of him. And Calvin is of the opinion that Elizabeth is the bee's knees, and Elizabeth likes him too. So they like bibbity bobbity boo into this relationship, but not marriage, because Elizabeth does not want to be Mrs. Calvin Evans. She wants to be Elizabeth Zott for a lot of very good reasons. So they decide to just be in love instead of getting married. So things happen that I'm not going to tell you, but all of the bibbity bobbity booing turns into a baby, which is not so cool with the men in the lab in the 1960s, as you can imagine. And so she can't work there anymore. So what's a girl to do? Well, when her 3-year-old daughter keeps getting her lunch stolen at school, Elizabeth finds herself in a TV studio telling the little thief's dad that he needs to pack his daughter nutritious lunches. And then the next thing you know, Elizabeth is the star of an afternoon cooking show that takes the world by storm. And I know you're like, I don't understand. A chemistry lab and the patriarchy sounds like a boring book. And then she becomes Julia Childs. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know about this book. I don't know why I would read it. Why would I read this book? That's what I thought when I read the blurb, right? When I heard what it was about, I was like, but people were raving about it. So I read it. And now I am raving. Because from the very first page, I knew I was going to love it, right? The voice of the narrator. Oh my God, witty and dry and sarcastic and direct, and just so much of like, why is the world this way? It's so dumb. Why is the world this way? And it's exactly the thoughts that are going through my mind as I read what is happening to Elizabeth and to the HR woman and to the neighbor babysitter Harriet and like to the like even the 3-year-old little girl Madeline, right? I did not want to put this book down once I started it, and I did not want it to end when it ended, which is probably why as soon as it ended, I like started reading it again from page 1. So, do I recommend this book? Yes. Yes. I wish everyone would read it. It is definitely a book of the year contender for me. Plus, Elizabeth is potentially a best main character winner for me in 2023. And then look, I've got Madeline and Harriet as possible best supporting character winners. So like, I love the characters. I love the narration. I love the voice. Yes, I totally recommend it. And do I recommend it for book clubs? I do. And this is where I need to add that while I love the book, it does include scenes and discussion of sexual assault and rape, but I say this because you should know that you're going to be reading about it so that you can prepare yourself to read about it or prepare yourself to like pass on reading this book for now. So to book club or not to book club? I think book club. I think this is a book that you're gonna love talking about, especially if you're in a book club full of women. Although I actually would love to be a fly on the wall at a book club full of men who are book clubbing this book. I wonder what they'd think of it. Like, I wonder what kinds of things they would talk about. I wonder if they would be confused or if they would be like, oh yeah, that was the 60s. And that's how women were perceived and treated in the 60s, right? And all the women in the group would be like, but it's not the 60s now. So, and then the men would be like, yeah, you've come a long way, baby. And the women would be like, okay, enough about that book club discussion going on in my head right now. Here are some of the things that you could talk about your book club after reading this book. I mean, if your book club wants to talk about sexism, misogyny, feminism, then you will have all kinds of rabbit holes to go down on those subjects. But here's what else you could talk about. I would love to discuss the dynamic between Elizabeth and Harriet, the neighbor babysitter, right? How their worldview and their life goals are the same, and then how they are different, and like the ways that they are both choosing to live their lives, and the things that they find acceptable and the things they don't, and what all of that means, like for womanhood. The same thing with Elizabeth and the HR lady. Oh my God, these women who have like so much in common, including the reason why neither one were able to finish their advanced degrees. Lord. I would love to discuss what happened and how each of them decided like how to go on from there, and the ways that women support each other and don't. I'd also love to discuss the men in the book and how they interacted with Elizabeth and how she interacted with them. And Calvin. Like, I'd love to talk about Calvin and the things that he would say to Elizabeth or think about her and how she was going about working at the lab and dealing with the system. And like, is he right? Is he wrong? Is the answer like somewhere in the middle? Like, I would love to talk about his perspective. And I'd love to talk about Elizabeth's perspective on marriage and why she believes that marriage for her was out the question. I would love to talk about that whole conversation that she has with Calvin in the Hastings cafeteria when he like pulls out the ring box. I'd love to talk about why she seems to hate the cooking show so much. Why she packs little notes into her daughter's lunchbox, and why her daughter takes them out before she leaves for school, and why her daughter keeps the notes instead of tossing them out. And I wonder what people think of the thinking dog. I guess the dog never talked. He was thinking, right? He narrated. Did you like getting the dog's perspective on things, or were you like, too weird, too weird? So there's definitely things that you could talk about for hours after reading this book. All right, let's get to the Fig 3. So for this book, I'm going to go with 3 quotes from the book that I'd love to discuss with my book club. Think you'd want to book club this book? I totally would. I think that you'd have an amazing discussion. Hey, if you decide to do it, will you let me know in the comments and let me know how it went and what got everybody talking? I would love to know. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. If you're thinking about The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi or any of the books in the Hopeless series by Colleen Hoover, or if you love stories about characters who can see into the future and then do things to actively change the future, well, I've got videos coming up on these books that you are not going to want to miss. And if you're wondering if any of those would work for your book club, no worries, I've got you covered. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so that you'll be notified when I've got videos for all of these books available. In the meantime, check out this video on tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Along with my regular book club discussion topics that I share, I've got some suggestions for you if you're in a business owner's book club or mastermind, or if you're in an artist or creators group, right? There are lots of things that both of those kinds of book clubs could be talking about as it relates to business and the creative process. So check it out. You're in the right place. We read different. Thanks for watching. See you next time.